So this is Bonkers Betty, our final widow, and potentially my absolute favourite. She's going to be joining the other 5 we've done here on Hysteria Lane. So we're moving away from this horrible woman Barbara who lives next door. And we're moving on to Betty, who's going to really give us a breath of fresh air against what we had to go through with Barbara last time and all of her materialistic nonsense. Because Betty is all about nature, and she's all about recycling, and she's very earth conscious. So her house is just going to be so much nicer than the one next door. She still has a conservatory, because every old lady in a bungalow needs a conservatory. But we're actually going to make that one brown as we move around and do that one. She also has a pride door. I know, I've seen that, I've noticed that. She's somewhat in competition with Constance, who lives across the road, who has a pride flag in her window. But they both believe that this pride flag is a Save the NHS flag. So during COVID, Constance put up her pride flag because she thought it was a Save the NHS flag, which is the National Health Service in the UK. And it was a whole thing during COVID, people putting up these rainbow flags to thank the key workers for working in the NHS. But Betty wanted to thank the NHS workers even more than Constance did, so she painted her whole door a rainbow. Because she's just so nice like that and appreciative during COVID. So we're gonna go make a conservatory a brown one, because I realised I'd made all the others on this road white. But there are brown conservatories, and there's green ones, and I sort of made a greenhouse earlier, but I wanted to make a selection of conservatories. And I thought, because Betty's very into earth and earth tones, that she would quite like the brown one. And I'm just go around and edit this house a bit to add some details. But Betty is very much, I've realised as I've gone along with these builds, that a lot of these old ladies sort of remind me of people unintentionally that I've known during my life. And Betty somewhat reminds me of a teacher I had in primary school when I was in year 4. And she was very eco-conscious. I remember doing all sorts of lessons about climate change and being eco-friendly with this teacher, and she lived on a canal boat. She was like that kind of person. She lived on a canal boat, very sort of hippie, and she was just great. And I remember one day when I was at primary school, some horses had escaped from a local pen somewhere, because I lived quite in sort of the countryside where there was a lot of sheep and cows and horses and things, and some horses escaped and they made it onto the school field. So I'm detailing this house. I know I'm not going to talk about it because I'm going to talk about this instead, but just some horses escaped on the school field. So we arrived at school one day and there were horses on the school field. And now, of course, if that happened today, they would just cancel the school and tell everyone to go home because of health and safety. But we still went into school, and you could see these horses out of the window. And every other class, they shut the blinds and they weren't allowed to look at the horses, and they had to continue with the school day. But my teacher in year 4, who was very eco-friendly and things, she decided that day we would all write a story and be expressive and creative in imagining how the horses had got onto the school field. And I just thought that was amazing of a teacher, to actually work with what was going on the school day and realizing that all the kids were going to be distracted the whole day. And it was such a fun day, and we all got to imagine how the horses had got there on the school field. And then during the day, the farmers came and took them back again. And I remember there was another time that she just arrived at school one day and she just decided that she wasn't in the mood. She wasn't in the mood to teach that day. And she literally told us, how old would we have been? 8-year-olds. She just was I can't be bothered teaching today, so we're just going to colour. So we spent all day colouring in because she couldn't be bothered doing the lesson. Very bonkers, and I think that's sort of where Bonkers Betty comes from. So we're creating her little outline of a house here. She's going to have a walkway that goes into the fields that she can access from the side of her house. And I feel like if Betty could live on a canal boat, she maybe would do. But she's going to live here with all of the widows on Hysteria Lane because she's needed here as a breath of fresh air, especially next to Barbara next door, who's just very materialistic. And Betty's garden, again, is going to be very different from all the other ones. And I'm actually going to show you Betty's, because Betty's garden is quite important for her personality. Because Betty's garden is all natural wildflowers. And she's gone to the garden centre and she's got those packets that you can get that are seeds for birds, seeds for butterflies, seeds for bees, and they're all natural wildflowers. So she's not placed anything here just to be a flower that she enjoys. She's literally just scattered all of these wild seeds throughout her garden to attract all of the local wildlife because she's so eco-conscious and eco-friendly. And here she's actually going to have an external sort of conservatory grow, what are they called? greenhouse, that's it, greenhouse. I don't know why that took me so long, but she's going to have a greenhouse because she even grows like stuff in there. She's got this fountain that she doesn't use as a fountain. She's just let it fill with all sorts of like local, plant spores and getting all of the nature in her garden. Now, I will say, being in her garden is probably a bit scary because she's presumably got bees and wasps just constantly flying around. So it's probably maybe not the nicest garden to sit in if you're afraid of like getting stung by a bee. But the bees are having a great time, and she's got all of the wildflowers that I can pick from this that I've placed in this garden. All of the natural occurring flowers and bushes. She lets it grow and just do what it wants to do, while also keeping it, quite well tended as well. So many flowers for all the butterflies and the bees to come and make their honey and save the bees and etc. That reminds me of this TikTok. Do any of you know this TikTok lady? Or I think it might be YouTube Shorts or whatever. She's probably on all of them because everyone is. And she just saves the bees, and she ends every video with, "And that's another day of saving the bees." I feel like that would be Betty if she was sort of young enough to be good at technology. She'd be just out saving the bees, picking up handfuls of bees and making beehives for them. So we're going to have all these different sections here of wildflowers. I really want it to look like she'd really just scattered these seed packets full of natural British occurring wildflowers, because this is a British build, it's a British bungalow. And to an extent, I don't think that Betty actually uses her garden very much. I think her garden is really a place that she's just made for the local wildlife and not for herself, but to support the local wildlife, and provide little refuges for hedgehogs and various things like that. She's thinking about all of these things. So I'm just going to finish up the garden here and neaten it up just a little bit, because she does tend to it. She doesn't let it get too wild. She still enjoys having a garden, but mostly she's going out there to go into the greenhouse that we'll get into later, that I'm going to furnish with the Felix Rustic collection, which is a new one I've downloaded that I quite like for doing these country nature style builds. So that's the garden finished, and sorry if you don't like garden work that much, but I wanted to do show you one garden along this road. So we're going to move on, and we're going to use Pierre Sim's Winter Garden collection. I think it's Pierre Sim, I'm sorry if it's not, but I'm not very good at knowing who my CC is by. To really make this very old looking, it's made of metal. This like, what would it be? Copper, maybe? Is this the green is sort of copper, right? I'm going in with a very natural sort of flagstone here in both of these outer areas. And then we're going to move inside, and she's going to have this bedroom, and this is immediately going to be very OTT. So all of the furniture that I picked out for Betty is all stuff that she sort of recycled or picked up that other people were giving away, or she's using objects for like their non-intended purpose. So she has a crate here that had apples in it or whatever, and she's using that as a side table. She's made all of these shelves out of recycled books and suitcases that she doesn't use. She's using all natural materials, like she's got this sort of jute yarn looking rug that she's put down, all these wicker sort of rattan, what are those, placemats, and she's obviously going to have quite a lot of plants all over the place because she's very into her plants. And she's quite maximalist in a different way to Constance, who we did in another video, and that she's maximalist in a way that she's recycling, and she doesn't really care what everything looks like. She just wants it to be quite eco-friendly and nature driven. So moving on to the living room, and she's got these dressers, I think from Tiny Traveler's collection, but I just liked how they look very organic and they've got the trees on there. I thought that was very Betty. And again, just a combination of all sorts of different things. And Betty has some objects that, unlike Barbara next door, who thinks she's cultured but really isn't, Bonkers Betty is actually quite cultured and has travelled quite well, and she's got, a combination of different things, and she's very into all of her colours and being inspired by a palette of all sorts of different colours in this build. And she's made little areas like this in her living room, which she's just made for plants, for air quality, and because she appreciates that plants are really good to have in the house, for feeling at home and in nature and for the mental health. So she does have this fireplace, which she doesn't use because fireplaces aren't very eco-friendly, Betty thinks. So she's just used that as a shelf. And now we're going to move into the most sort of excessive bathroom that we're going to do on this street, because she's just made this pretty much bright orange. And you know what? It might have been my favourite. I kind of want this, especially that dresser, which I absolutely love. Again, she's cultured, and I don't think Betty even realises that she's cultured. She just has these items that are just unintentionally incredibly stylish and unique. And I really love that about Betty. She's just an absolute breath of fresh air. And she doesn't care. She's not doing any of this because she cares what anyone thinks about her house. She's just doing it because she likes these things and all of the things are her tastes. And she's just a complete individualist and really happy to just be herself all of the time. So I'm going to give her this hallway, which again, she's used some recycled books as bookshelves, which she's going to put books on top of as well, because she doesn't like throwing anything away. She likes to recycle things and use them. She's very creative in a very underappreciated way, where she sees an object and she thinks, you know what? I don't need to use that for its intended purpose. I can save throwing it out and use it for something else. And I really respect that about Betty, and I like that. And to some extent, I sort of do that myself in real life. Not that I'm trying to big myself up, but I like doing that because I like doing it for the moral reasons and to be less wasteful and etc. etc. Moving on to the kitchen diner. And so I specifically picked this counter out for Betty because my mum had a friend once who's also very eco-friendly, and she now lives in an eco house, which I've never had the chance to go to, which is really sad because I'd really like to go to that and see what she's done. But she's got this eco house that's very self-sufficient, and in a previous house that she had a recycled glass kitchen counter, and it looked a lot like this. And I thought, you know what, Betty would definitely have this kind of recycled glass counter, just trying to reduce the waste out there. And so all of these materials are sort of like recycled, very eco-friendly, including all of the textiles and things. They're all from natural sources that are easily renewable. But she's going to come in here too she's got these unintentionally cultured things that she's picked up along the way. This like peacock. And I know that Barbara has a peacock, but this one's better because Barbara's is just a load of nonsense that she just got because it was expensive at the Four Seasons. Whereas Betty actually picked hers up from some, maybe that was actually painted, in Thailand. Do Thailand have peacocks? Now I'm sounding stupid because I'm calling it cultured, and I'm clearly not, because I don't know if they actually, no, they don't, aren't they? I think they're like Middle East, they're like Middle Eastern peacocks. I don't know. Anyway, just pretend all of that, what I just said, because clearly I'm stupid and I'm not cultured. But Betty is, and that's the only important thing here. To the conservatory, very large conservatory, because she loves all of that bright light, and to be able to put her tropical plants in here. Again, a combination of things. That little side table she's got, I really like that one. That looks like it has a shell on it or something. And then Betty is actually she doesn't use her garage for her car. You might have noticed that her car is just parked outside. And that's because she's converted her garage to this sort of like laundry room, and she's got some plant arranging tables over there and a sink, and she's made it very functional. Some old rugs she didn't want to throw out, so she's put those in there, and this is basically just a big laundry room that she doesn't use, and that's very common in the UK, that people don't actually use their garages to put their cars in. They just use them as like various other rooms. We don't have a lot of space in the UK. We're going to finish off here with this outside little greenhouse. I didn't decorate this too much because honestly at this point the whole lot was lagging, and that's a big reason. But here's Betty's finished house, and here she is watching some kind of old drama or something on TV. Move on to the hallway, which is very nicely decorated, very rustic. She's layered up those rugs in a nice way. This bathroom, which is my favourite, and I actually do think now that if I ever have the chance to do a bathroom, I might do it like this, because this might be the best bathroom I've made, in my opinion. Into her recycled kitchen, the living room. She's not giving herself a lot of space in this build. She's just, she's quite a simple lady. Doesn't need much space. The kitchen here. Her bedroom, which is very nice. Again, just all very, very recycled. She's very happy with her house. The conservatory here. She has a few little toy things that I've added here and some silly little children's paintings. Presumably she has a grandchild, maybe. Finishing off with the laundry room. And then we're going to go outside Save the NHS doorway, she's very for that. And again, it's brown and blue bin day, so she's very diligently put those out ready for collection. As we go around, I'm not going to end the video here, because this was actually the last build. On Hysteria Lane we have finished, we've done all 6 now of these builds that I had prepared for while I'm in Portugal. So I will now upload this to the Sims file share. It's a very big file. It's got 6 houses on it that are quite well detailed. My own PC is not, it's not handling this well. I say that as if I have a good PC. I actually don't really have a PC that is that well done. But because we have finished it now and I've done all of the exterior work, sort of interconnecting this and building the road, I'll just show you how this whole lot looks at the end. We've got like the red post box. I've put in some electrical phone lines, those are. I've put, you know, lamp posts in, and you can see that they all have their bins out because it's bin day. I just really wanted to make this look like a British street that, you know, had things going on and it's really lived in and there's a story going on here, and that was my main intention with this. So there's different pathways lead off the lot to try and merge it into the outside world. All of the trees I've added surrounding this as well. And with that, thank you so much for watching this little series. Be kind to yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.